terms of overseeing your activity, and we will be meeting at some required mandatory benchmarks just to review your performance at that time and kind of be proactive with any issues that are arising and help you through them along the way. So I'm going to present this portion of the meeting with you, and this is the overview of the PACE grant. So of course my screen isn't, okay, here we go. So here's all of the FY25 grantees that hopefully everyone's here with us today. Here are all of the organizations. We have New Jersey District Council Roofers Pre-Apprenticeship Program, doing industrial union roofing, NJ Healthcare Employers 1199J, and their occupation certified nursing assistant. Progress 360 is union construction. Silbert Partners is a certified massage therapist. ACCJ Red Band Spa is licensed massage therapy. The County College of Morris with advanced manufacturing, and Students to Science. Occupations are medical and clinical laboratory technicians, laboratory assistants, educational services, teachers and instructors, and all other that encompass that, for a total of 207 participants to be served with this grant. Okay, so here is the link for JobSource. JobSource is required for all your participants to enroll through. It's a free account for them. They will create their account, it'll go to the one-stop system, but most importantly, they'll receive their AOSOS number, which is a required field you'll see later in for your participant data. They could do this all for themselves. But again, they should be in contact with you with that number. But they must register. It is required that you have a one-stop connection with your participants and your grant. Okay, here. So the responsibilities and expected outcomes of the PACE grant. You want to enroll a minimum number of participants into your pre-apprenticeship program as outlined in your proposal and consequently in your contract. Ensure that 80% of participants graduate and are placed into one of the following: 25% of them into a USDOL approved registered apprenticeship program, post-secondary education, or quality employment at a rate of no lower than $16 per hour. It's important to note that quality employment is employment that matches the training. So say they have engineer training, they are not to get a job at a department store as a cashier. That is not quality employment, and it will not count for your grant. You're to maintain records and report program activities on a monthly basis and provide follow-up support services to your participants. Your deliverables. So your contract started on February 15th, 2025, and it'll end on August 14th of 2026. Your monthly reports are due by the 15th of every month. And by the end of the contract period, the minimum number of participants must have completed the program and acquired a quality placement.
Just for a quick uh, addition to that page, with the first report, because we're starting in the middle of the month of February, we're not going to have you do a February report. We'll have you do a February and March report, combine them, and submit it in April. That's why we're meeting here at the end of March instead of at the end of February. So just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody. But once we start talking about the reports, that's the expectation.
Sure. So to help you along with your US DOL registered apprenticeship requirement, here are the contacts that can help you along. So the state director is Michael Blatt, and the federal representatives by your county would be Nicole Field, Chris Lee, Joe Mancini, or John Martinez. And here are their email addresses. As Bill stated, you will receive a recording of this, but you'll also receive this PowerPoint. So don't worry about trying to jot all this stuff down. As we go through it, you will have a copy of this. Okay. All right, so at this time, I'm going to turn this program over to Tammy Radigan, and she's going to review the monthly reporting system with you.
Great. Thank you, Lauren. Hello, everyone, and congratulations on your award. So next, we're going to go through your monthly reports, the highly anticipated reports, the way for you to get reimbursed for the great work that you're doing for your programs. So what you're going to see in front of you right now, hopefully you can see my screen, is a user guide that we're actually going to distribute to you. So you'll have this to reference back to, but we're just going to quickly go through to give you an idea of what the pages in the report look like and what your responsibilities will be. So as Bill had mentioned, your monthly reports, they're going to be due on the 15th of every month for expenses and activities that were incurred or occurred in the prior month. So for example, with your first reports, you're going to be completing March reports, which will become available to you on April 1st. So you have between April 1st and April 15th to complete those reports. And they're going to be all activity from the beginning of your contract, which started February 15th, all the way through the end of March. So you're going to begin by revisiting the IGX website, and you'll log in with the credentials that you use to complete your application. Now, locating your application is a little bit funky in the beginning. Once your contract has actually been fully executed and signed by our executive review team, it's going to appear on your dashboard in the My Tasks section. But since your contracts are undergoing that whole process right now, in the background, you kind of have to search for your application a little bit to begin your reports. So we're going to go through that in the next slide. So what you're going to do is you're going to use this searches tab at the top on your dashboard. You see that right here, and you'll click My Documents. That's going to pull a page that looks like this that says My Documents, and what you'll do is just search by the type. So you'll pull up the PACE application FY25 for round 1, and then you'll hit search, and then in the results of that pull at the bottom, you should see your application, and you'll just click the hyperlink to access your application. So to start a report, what you'll have to do is you'll use the navigation panel on the left side of the page, and you'll scroll all the way to the bottom to this section called Related Documents. And there's this big button that says Initiate Related Documents. So you'll start by clicking that. And then a window will appear to ask you what document you want to begin. If you've granted with us in the past, we used to have the activity and the expenditure reports separate. That's a new enhancement for this year, is we've actually combined both of those reports into one monthly report. We're hoping that this will prevent any confusion as to what month you're doing, what report has been started, what report hasn't been started. So it's just going to be one monthly report that you'll select. So again, in the circumstance for your first reports, you're going to be initiating your monthly reports for March. So you'll select that from the available document selection, and then you'll hit Create. You'll receive an agreement page similar to that you had in your application, and you'll just verify that you want to agree to start that report. So just double check that you have the right month when you're doing that, and then if all is good, you'll hit agree. The page navigation is going to be similar to how your application was, where all the pages that need to be completed for the month are going to appear on the left side of the page for you to navigate to. Also, just like with your application, you can bounce in and out of the report as you needed. You don't have to complete everything in one sitting. So once your report has been started, it's going to live in that My Tasks section on your dashboard for you to reaccess at any point. And it'll stay there until you actually submit that report to us for review. So after you submit that agreement page and you're brought to that document landing page of your report, you'll notice that there are 3 different sections that need to be completed for the month. We have the activity report, expenditures, and the payment voucher. We suggest kind of going in this order because a lot of the pages flow into one another. So you'll begin with the activity report and you'll select participant list to begin your report. So the participant list, this is where you're going to add the individuals that have been formally accepted into your program and you've enrolled them and they've started the training. You don't want to add them prematurely because there's information that you have to add on subsequent pages that you'll get hung up on if you try to add like future dates into. So once they've actually been added for that particular month, then you're going to add them on this page. So for example, if you have an individual who starts training in April and you're completing the March report, you don't want to add them until you get to the April report. Hope that's clear. So the type of information that we ask for, you're going to have the first and the last name of the individual, their mailing or street address, and the city of where they live, that AOSOS number that Lauren mentioned before. So you want to have some coordination with the individual on obtaining that number, or some coordination with your one-stop to get that number. It's not a required field initially, but we do need to have that number at the very least by the end of your contract in order to accurately see what types of services the individual received. You'll indicate the cycle number. That's the cycle number of training. So if you have multiple cycles that are within your proposal that you plan on having, you would just indicate what type of cycle or what cycle number that individual is participating in. You're going to provide their date of birth, their demographics information, which includes their gender, race, ethnicity, and then also their highest level of education. New to the reports for this fiscal year, we have this target population section. So in your proposals and within the deliverables of your contracts, you'll notice that you might have indicated to us different target populations that you plan to serve that we may have given extra points for during the panel review process. So we wanted a way to be able to now capture that type of information. You can make multiple selections within this section. So you would just make sure to check any that are applicable for the individual. So you might want to review this list prior to having your enrollment intake to make sure that there's a way for you to capture this information from your individuals. So once you add a participant, you can save the page, and then you can use the plus button on the right side to add any additional participants. You also have the option to add multiple pages. So if it's easier for you to organize things by, say, cohort, you have cohort 1 on one page, cohort 2 on a second page, you can do that as well. You'll see the add button at the top of the page to enable you to do so. And all the same, the pages would all look the same. It would have the same types of fields, the plus button for you to add additional people, and just make sure that you're saving as you go along. The next page is the quality partner page. So this is where you're going to add quality partners that are associated with the placement outcomes of your grant. So those would be the registered apprenticeship sponsors, employers at a rate of $16 an hour or more, or those post-secondary or vocational training institutions. So you should know some of these already based on your proposal. So we would suggest adding them right away. So you're going to indicate what type of partner they are. That would be those categories that I just mentioned. You give the name of that partner, federal ID number. If you're able to get that, that would be great. It's not a required field, but again, it's something that we'd like to have if you can provide it. The contact information for the individual that you're in contact with through that partnership, and also their address, the address of the institution or organization, and then their phone and email address. Again, you can use the plus sign to add additional partners, and then just make sure that you're saving the page as you go along. You can also organize these pages as well. Say if you wanted to have registered apprenticeship sponsors on one page and employers on a different page, you could do so by using the add button at the top of the page, just like with the participant list. The quality placement and activity. So these pages, they're going to automatically populate based on individuals that you've added on your participant list. So in the example that you see on screen, there were 2 participants added to the participant list, Russ Michaels and Uma Williams. So each of them now has their individual page for you to capture their data. On those pages, what you'll have to do is you'll see that their name and unique ID number pull over every month. And you're going to have to initially just indicate what their performance is to date and their training start date. As they progress through the program, though, you'll need to come to this page every month and make any updates. So if for some reason their performance has changed, where they're unsatisfactory, or maybe they withdraw from the program, or they've completed the program, you're going to make that sort of update on this page. And then if there's a date associated with any of that, such as if they completed, you're going to want to put their training completion date in, or if they've withdrawn from the program, we want to know what we're calling it an exit date, but that's essentially what it is. You would want to make that information available here. You're also going to come to this page and continually, as applicable, add any credential information. So if they've earned any credentials for the month, you'll add that information here, or if there are college credits as part of your program, when those things are earned, you'll add them to the page as well and to update it. The middle section of the page, you'll see this quality placement information. This is what will occur once the individual has completed the program and is placed with one of those quality partners. So again, the quality partner will be the registered apprenticeship sponsor or employer or the vocational secondary education placement. So once that placement has actually occurred, then you're going to fill out this section of the page. So you're going to indicate the type of quality outcome, which is going to be those three categories. That's what's on the drop-down list. Based on what you select, it's going to filter out what quality partners pull here based on your quality partner page. So if you have registered apprenticeship sponsors selected, those that are listed as registered apprenticeship sponsors on your quality partner page will become available on this list for you to select them as the correct person or correct organization. So if you don't see a quality partner listed, you would need to revisit the quality partner page and either add them or maybe change the category if they're categorized incorrectly. Then you'll have to enter the NACE code. You'll indicate the trade or the occupation that the individual is going into, their previous hourly wage, and their starting hourly wage as well. And then the quality placement start date. So when they receive that quality placement and when they've actually started it, that you're going to provide that date to us. If it's a registered apprenticeship placement, you're going to use some of the boxes down here. So we have the status of the apprentice with USDOL. You're going to need to provide us with the apprentice ID number. This is something that if you're the sponsor, you would get that information from the RAPIDS database, or if not, you would need to collaborate with your registered apprenticeship sponsor partner to get that information. This is a way for us to verify the validity of that placement, which you'll see this next box that this is for something for staff to use on the back end. It's not something that you fill out, but we do check in the RAPIDS database to ensure that that individual is truly registered with a program. And then these other two boxes, if any of these actually occur, such as a cancellation with USDOL, or if they complete the program within the time of your contract, you would add those dates. But more often than not, that's probably not going to be the case. The next page you'll complete is the stipends and supportive services. So the drop-down list here is going to pull from your participant list. So again, if you don't see an individual that you need to report a stipend or supportive service payment on, you would need to revisit your participant list and make sure to add them so that they become available for you to add to the drop-down or to select from the drop-down menu. What we're capturing here are only grant-funded stipends and supportive services. We understand that there may be other things that are issued outside of grant funding, but we're just concerned about tracking for purposes of your expenditures, what the stipends and the supportive services payments look like. So it's also going to keep a cumulative cost on a one-to-one basis for the stipends and supportive services in each of these columns. But all you need to do each month, if the person did receive any of the applicable things, you'll just come in under current monthly cost and you'll indicate that the amount that they received. With supportive services, you'll also need to indicate the type of supportive service that they received. When it comes to some categories that may be more confidential or may violate HIPAA, you can be vague with those services. So for example, if maybe somebody received mental health counseling, you can just say counseling or something like that so that it's not violating any terms of, that individual's confidentiality. To add more participants, you would select the plus button and continue to add them and their monthly applicable cost. This information will carry over from month to month. So you'll just need to revisit this page, and if an individual that you've already listed has received another stipend or supportive service for the month, you'll add that individual's information into these categories under their record. And then any new individuals that may have been added to the program that received those things, you can add them using the plus sign.
It's important that you make sure that this page matches what you're requesting in funds for the month. if we look at your, first of all, it's going to require it on the stipend side. It actually matches to make sure that the amounts that you entered in the current monthly cost for stipends matches what you've put on your expenditure report. But for the supportive services, we will be checking to see if you have billing for anything that's supportive service, if it's been posted on this page. The main reason being is we want to be able to track for your participants what the grant funds have allowed you to provide them, and what those and how those types of services have benefited them during the grant period. At the end of the day, the stipends are, in our expectation, are going to help your participants complete your trainings and ultimately allow for you to ensure that your participants stay with you. As far as the supportive services, it'll be the same, depending on what those supportive services are. They may need help with transportation to show up at at your program, or childcare in order to be able to participate. Um, so at the end of the day, we're trying to track these things to see how these services have been benefiting the participants. But at the end of we are also trying to ensure that we're aligning with requirements of some legislative requirements that we have. Supportive services is something that has actually been legislatively required now when it comes to funding that's issued by state government funds. So, we're looking to be able to track that stuff and show the supportive services that you're providing your participants um, uh, quickly but accurately. We don't want to just guess at what it is you provided them based on what your budget says. We want to be able to accurately show these are all the supportive services you provided to your participants during the grant period, and this is how much funding was allocated to that. So um, it's just a quick point of of that I wanted to make in reference to this page and any of the additions and changes that have been made to it in this fiscal year.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, and just so you all know, one of the changes that we've made with this page too is the stipends amount is actually going to pull over into your expenditure report. But so when we get to that page, I'll show you where that is. So the cumulative stipend for the month is going to, oops, I'm sorry, will pull over. Um, so if you notice that it's not correct, you would need to revisit this page to be able to adjust that number. It won't allow you to adjust it there. But as far as the supportive services, as Bill mentioned, just make sure that you're tracking that and ensuring that what you're billing for aligns with what you've reported on this page. Okay, this is a new page to this fiscal year. We have project location where we want to try to start tracking better where the actual training is taking place. So once a cycle of training has started, you would need to go to this page and you would need to indicate the cycle. So again, it's going to be that number 1 through, however many cycles you have. You're going to indicate the course name and the address of where the training is taking place, as well as the contract person at that location. This can extend to not just traditional classroom type training, but also on the job training. So if that's the case, under course name, you could just add a description of what exactly it is that's occurring. OJT at whatever location or with whatever employer, that would be fine. But you will be required to complete this information as long as there's a cycle of training indicated. So if you have 2 cycles of participants that are active, you won't be able to submit this report without indicating at least one project location information for that cycle, 1 for 1, 1 for 2. And you can continue to add as many courses as needed, as relevant to your cycle. It's not limited to just providing one line. So you can have multiple line 1s with the course information individually for each of those and the different contact information as well. And you would just use the plus sign in order to do that. And again, you also have the ability to add pages if it's easier for you to organize by cycle in that way. That's perfectly fine. Whatever's the easiest for you to just keep track of what you have. All right, and then the last page of your activity report section is going to be your dashboard, which basically is a roll-up of all the information that you've submitted so far. So you'll have to come in here, you're going to indicate the grant project director, and you'll need to provide program status comments, which basically should be a summary of all the activity that's that occurred during the month, as well as any barriers that you may be facing with either program participants or starting your program, anything like that. So you'll provide that information in the two boxes that are at the top. You'll see that there are a couple charts here to kind of help you review the data that you've submitted. We have the contractual performance to date chart that'll show you the different percentages of these different categories as you're progressing through the program. We have a roll-up of all the demographics information for the participants. So if you notice that something doesn't look quite right, you would need to go back to the participant list and edit the data accordingly. And then we have this little helpful chart here, which is the contractual deliverables, where it's going to show you what you're contracted to do in this expected column versus what you've actually achieved to date as of this report. So again, if you notice anything that's off, it may be that you need to go back to a previous page within the report and correct that data so that it pulls to this page accurately. Another change with this particular report for the month is we used to have these cycles that were kind of predetermined. Now, if you have additional cycles of training, you would use the plus sign to add as many cycles as you need. So whenever a cycle has actually started, you'll come in here, you'll indicate the cycle number, you'll put in the start and the end date, and then you're going to provide us with any comments such as the course name, description of the course, and updates to the activities received during the month. And you'll need to make sure to add updated comments every month for that cycle until that cycle ends. Additionally, on the dashboard, there's these bottom sections. So this is just the demographics again in your contractual agreement or your contractual deliverables. But this bottom section pulls in some more specific data on the different data points that you've entered throughout the report. So you have the total number of participants not completing, total number of participants completing, achieving total number of participants receiving a quality outcome, receiving a credential, college credits. So all you need to do is just kind of review this information and ensure that it's accurate. And if it's not accurate, revisit the applicable page within the activity report to make that change. We added a tool to the participants, to the activity report that you guys can now use. It's not required, but it's called the participant data report. And what it essentially does is it pulls all of the information that you've added on the activity report pages into the ability to export to an Excel document. So you could use that to just maintain records from month to month of what you submitted. You could use it to just quickly be able to view and see where you may have provided inaccurate information or made an error or something like that. So if you want to use this, you'll see that it'll appear under your dashboard on the menu. You'll just click PACE Activity Data Report, and it'll pull to this page here where you can either view the results on the screen, like is showing on this below here, or you can export to Excel and follow the prompts if you prefer to view it that way. Again, it's not required, it's just an extra tool that we added to try and help. All right, so the next section you're going to complete is your expenditures. So it's going to be under the expenditure section, and you'll start with PACE expenditure report. So you'll visit where it says current expenses, and you'll enter in any expenses for the month under the applicable categories. As I mentioned before, the pre-apprenticeship stipends will automatically pull in. That's why this box is grayed out right here. So if you notice that this amount is not what you're expecting to bill, you need to revisit the stipends page of your activity report section and make the edits there in order for that to update to the correct amount. At the bottom of the page, this is a little bit confusing, but it says, is this your final expenditure? You should be selecting no until you get to the very last report of your contract. We do have a warning message that pops up just to kind of remind you of that, but I just wanted to make sure to cover that just in case. There's a miscellaneous attachments section where you can feel free to use this to add any attachments that you may want to include in your report. If you do so, it's similar to how it operates within your application, where you would need to add both a title or description as well as the upload on this page and then save it. And then the last section that you're going to be visiting of the report is the payment voucher. So the payment voucher is going to have a total of how much you're billing for the month, as well as your NJ Start vendor information. So you just want to review this page, ensure that the payment address is correct, the vendor ID is correct, the amount that you're billing for the month is correct. And if all of that looks good, you just need to check this box here to indicate that the report is accurate and you're ready to submit it for payment. So you'll click that and you save the page. And then you'll be ready to submit your report. So submitting the monthly report does require a status change, just like you had with your application. So you'll use the navigation panel on the left side of the page, scroll down to where it says status options, and the status that will be available, it says expenditure report submitted, review required. So you'll click on that status, a window will pop up ensuring that you do actually want to submit the report, which if you're ready to do so, you would just hit OK. And then that sends the report over to us for review. Again, we're going to supply a copy of this user guide so that you can refer back to it as much as you need. And of course, we're always here for any questions that you may have. I'm going to turn it back over to Lauren, and I think we're going to open it up for any questions about the information. Thanks.
Just one thing, I just need contact information for Red Band Spa, who will be completing the activity and or expenditure reports.
So do we have any questions about the content provided today? I know it's a lot of information. Again, we're going to be following up with resource materials, so you'll have them to refer back to.
Yeah, there's some in the chat, Tammy, so I'm just going to go through them real quick, and
You want me to read them, Bill, or do you got them?
I think I got them. And if you see I
Okay.
miss anything, just let me know, because with all the names and stuff in there, sometimes things can be easily missed.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, the first question I see is the stipend taxable.
Yes, so Jen,
Okay.
when you ask if the stipends will be taxable for the participants, um, as far as I know, they are not taxable, but that's something that they should be bringing to the attention of their accountants, and or you guys can bring to the attention of your accountants, because it's not a it's not income, and that's one of the things that we want to make sure is clear. The main reason we are providing these funds are to ensure participation in the program. If your stipend is being provided to them for any other reason beyond that, it shouldn't be a stipend. They shouldn't be receiving a stipend. At the end of the day, the expectation is that these funds are necessary for them to be able to participate. So sometimes, I know I was talking about supportive services that we might provide, but sometimes the stipend covers some of the supportive services. Your grant may not have had supportive services built into the budget, therefore you don't have additional funds to provide them to come and show up, but the stipends would cover that and help them to be able to show up. In other cases, people have provided stipends and have supportive services as well for these participants, built into their budget, and it really comes down to the needs of the participants, the types of populations you're serving, have different needs. So, we want to make sure that we provide the funds necessary in order for them to show up and participate. But as far as it being taxable, for the participants, it shouldn't be, but I'm also not an accountant, so I don't want to specifically state definitively.
Okay, because I
Um,
wasn't sure if it needed to be processed through payroll or
I would
some
talk
sort.
internally with your own fiscal people. They may want to do it that way. It really is done differently at each organization. The stipends, some of them are doing it through their payroll areas. I can't specifically speak though to what it is that your organization thinks would be the best way to go about it. Um, I would talk to your internal people yourselves to get clarification on what they think is the best way to do it. Um, And if for some reason it comes up and it's just not going to work and it's not working for your organization, let us know, and we can work on budget modification to reallocate those funds to supportive services instead of a stipend.
Okay, no, that's
This
fair.
is Bill Brenner from Students to Science. I also had the same questions Jen did, and we did talk to accountants and ADP, and um, usually they don't know how a stipend works for someone that doesn't get paid a salary or a 1099. So if we do it through a 1099, they would be taxable. If they're not being put on as an employee, um, I'm not sure how I go through my
Well, and they
payroll
shouldn't be
provider.
put on as an employee. That's not the expectation. We
Okay.
don't want them to be considered an employee. Like I said, the stipend is not meant to be payroll costs, to cover payroll costs. It's meant to provide that level of service necessary for them to participate in the program. Like I said, it could be for them to be able to get to your program. It could be for them to pay for childcare for their children to go to, but it could also be to cover food expenses in their household because they are food deprived and they don't necessarily have the funds without working to do that. So there's lots of different reasons why and what things stipends could be used for, but ultimately I don't want to speak to the specifics of exactly how your organization should do it. It may not work for your organization to do them. I'll tell you, we've done stipends for many, many years, and I don't believe we've ever had any taxation issues with them. Just so you guys know, at least none that have been brought to our attention. Um, if for any of our grantees that have been prior grantees who provide stipends, if you want to add to that, please feel free to add how your organizations are doing it or have done it. Sure, if any of them are providing stipends or not. Mark, do you guys provide stipends?
Yes, we do. Good morning. And we do in the form of a transportation stipend.
So you actually provide them with funds, or you provide them with like bus passes?
Bus passes and train.
All right, so that's not stipend. That'll be a supportive service, but so you don't provide them with weekly or biweekly funds to participate in the program.
No, we don't.
Okay. Um, like I said, we can reach out to a few of our grantees that do and see how they do it, and we'll share that with you guys afterwards, just to ensure that you're all at least have knowledge of what other organizations have done to share with your internal people if they have questions.
That would be excellent if we could talk to somebody this is our first time in this program, so we just want to make sure we're doing it correctly. So that would be excellent. Thank you.
Sure. Yep. What we'll do is we'll reach out through email to a couple, and once we get responses, we'll forward them out to all of you who participated in today's meeting. Um, how do we indicate multiple training locations for one training course? You would list multiples on that project location page, Joe. So there's a plus sign at the end of the line, so you would just list them multiple times. Uh, and that's how you would do it. Right, Tammy?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, so you can have as many different courses or on-the-job training locations as you want to list for under a particular cycle. You would just list them select one multiple times.
I had a feeling we'd have questions about that section because it's new too, Joe. So I just want to give a little bit of background for why we ask for it. Main reasoning is sometimes we get asked where trainings are being provided across the state, and we want to be able to quickly and easily pull a report out of the database that says we have trainings that are being provided. So let's say we get a local somebody legislator or congressman or something who wants to know in their districts how many trainings are being provided and what kinds of trainings, we would be able to quickly and easily pull that data out of the database and provide it to them. So if you had a training location in 3 towns within one district, we want to be able to provide them with all 3 of those towns rather than just saying district wide you're providing it. It helps them to better understand what it is we're doing. So that is why we're capturing that data, um, and why we have it there. It's also going to be helpful to us if we ever need to um, come out and visit. We would have the addresses for where they're at and how to get there. Um, doesn't happen often, but sometimes we'll want to maybe come out and see something, especially if you have something interesting and neat going on and you want to share it with us. So, those are the reasons why we would be capturing that data. Um, our cycles are not expected to start until September 1st. Are we expected to submit monthly reports with zero activity until our program begins September 1st? Our first report with activity will be the report due on October 15th. Yes, so we expect you to provide us with reports on a monthly basis. You'll complete them with any details that you can provide us at that time. So as Tammy said, if you know who your quality partners are, maybe you'll want to enter them in, but you wouldn't show any participants in the first couple months, but you would update your dashboard page on a monthly basis to provide us with um, some details on where you're at with your process. As you can see, that program status comment section is mandatory on a monthly basis, and that's where you would provide us that detail. You would tell us if you're doing any recruitment events between now and September. You would provide us with details on what it is you're doing, because ultimately we're not looking to have you just sit around for the next, because September's what we start in February, 8 months into an 18-month program, Fred. That's something to take into consideration. 18 months is a short enough period of time. I know it sounds like a long time, but you got to provide training, you've got to complete training, and you have to place them into these outcomes. You're shortening the amount of time you have in order to be able to do that by waiting till September to accept participants. So it's something for you to take into consideration. I'm not telling you how to run your program, but I am saying 8 months of a funding stream, well, 7.5 months of a funding stream that are going to go without any service being provided is probably not a smart way of doing your program. So we can talk about that offline. I don't want to get too caught up in that specifically. That's specific to your program, but at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that you understand that yes, you still have to submit a monthly report even if you don't have any services that were provided in that report. You'll also have to, if nothing has changed. So if you added 2 people in 1 month and the next month you don't have any new people to add, you'll still create the reports and submit them. Another thing to take into consideration is that your expenses for your program should correlate to uh, what's going on in your program and what kind of services you've provided. If you've sent out marketing materials and provided some I don't know, outreach meetings or trainings, or you've gone to some events to do outreach for your program, make sure you're providing that information within your program status comment so that we'll understand what you're doing if you're asking for funds, because it should commit, this information should all kind of makes sense when we're looking at it. If you're billing us for $20,000 and you have no participants, we're going to possibly reach back out to you and ask you why. You know, um, Remember our grants pay per participant, so um, we have a little bit of leeway that we provide to the grantees initially, especially at startup. But the expectation throughout your grant period is that you're going to be somewhere within that $12,000 per participant, or whatever it was that you stated your cost per participant was going to be within your application. So um, try to keep that all in mind as you're going through your monthly reports. And we get a copy of the participant data report Excel spreadsheet before we start filing reporting. Um, I don't see why we couldn't give you the format of it, sure. What we'll do is just pull a blank one, Joe, and we can send it out to you guys. It's not gonna have any formulas built into it because once we get the reports, if we need specific data, we'll add formulas to it, but we can definitely give you at least the formatting of it, sure. If an apprenticeship is verified prior to obtaining an OSOS number for a participant, is an OSOS number still required for the? So, David, OSOS and the Rapids ID numbers are very different. OSOS data is coming out of the OSOS database that the One Stop uses, where the Rapids data is coming from the federal database, the Rapids database. So, yes, we do need both numbers. The OSOS number allows us to know that the participants have been registered at the One Stop and that the One Stop's aware that they may have that there may be services necessary for these individuals. Um, the services wouldn't duplicate what you guys are providing, but ultimately ensure that they are at least eligible to receive them if they are in need of any additional resources. So we would need both numbers. Will the One Stop provide the OSOS number immediately after registration? So the One Stop will not reach out to you, Jen. No, you will have to either reach out to them or you can get it directly from your participants. When they register, um, they should be getting this OSOS number. We're going to try and track and have processes in place on our end to be able to get these numbers as well, but they are very manual and they take a lot of time. So if you can work with your one stops that are local to you to ensure that you can try and come up with a strategy on how to get these, that would be very useful and helpful to us. Um, and if once the participants register in the job source database, if they get access to their number, if they can provide it to you, then that would also be useful. Thanks, Mark. With the Mark Kuiper said the organization's bookkeeper and accountant should be able to assist you with the stipend questions. I appreciate that, Mark. All right. That's all the questions that are in the chat. Did I miss any that you guys put in there? If I did, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask them. Um, I want to make sure I give you guys that opportunity before we finish up here. So do we make all the payments and then we get the reimbursements? Yes. So we are in reimbursement model. So that's why we do, March's reports are submitted in April. So any billings that you're submitting to us should have been payments that you've already made, and we're reimbursing your organization for them. That's a very good question. Thank you. Any other questions? With that, as was stated earlier, with the PACE grant, the technical assistant within our unit is Lauren Kremper DiFilippo. But you can always reach out to all of us and any of us at the apprenticeship unit at dol.nj.gov email address. With the other grantees to get together to discuss ideas and work. Are you asking if you're allowed to? Because you're absolutely allowed to, Mark. We definitely don't tell you guys what to do.
Yeah.
Are you
So,
asking
hi.
if they're any interested?
Hi, Bill. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I just thought I've been wanting to discuss this for quite a while. If any of the other new or returning PACE grantees like to meet quarterly to talk about our success, maybe some challenges, share, exchange ideas, focus on the upcoming apprenticeship week. So we used to do that way back when with YTTW. So I wanted to throw that out there and welcome all newcomers.
Thank you, Dr. Kuiper. Yes, that sounds like a really wonderful idea, and maybe even we can assist on coordinating something, at least initially, to kind of get you guys together and then allow you to take it over moving forward. One of you is to be the leader of it, because at the end of the day, it's a great idea. It'll help you to understand what others have found successful, anybody who's had this grant in the past, and it'll also allow for you to share any strategies that you've found. Listen, there's nothing here that should be a hidden gem that you are going to hold just for yourself and not share with others, mainly because most of you are in different occupations, therefore using different employers to place these individuals. But beyond that, you're in different areas of the state providing services. And at the end of the day, the goal here is to help New Jersey residents who are in need. And so I think that that's all wonderful. And I think that that would be a great idea. Um, Maybe Lauren,
Mhm.
Al, you guys can kind of try and take the lead on reaching out to them. Um, what do you say? Maybe like in like July? Um,
Sure.
and that way we can kind of just have them get together, share any concerns they're having, any issues they're having. Obviously, we'll share a directory with you guys, um, along with the information from this meeting so that you'll know the contact information for each of the organizations, and that way you guys can reach out to each other, if need be, beyond the meeting that we'll schedule. We'll try and coordinate for you guys in July. Um, and yeah, I think that's a great idea. Thank you guys for sharing that and being willing to do stuff like that. That's great.
Sure, Bill, I just wanted to add more things, and this would also help us be really more cohesive during in preparation for a really robust apprenticeship week. I think you could check with Jim, the one we just had, been trying to bring all of the YTT together, and it was a beautiful ceremony for Apprenticeship Appreciation Week, and
Mhm.
we also had, because the veterans were new, we invited them to come in because they were graduating. So the NJDOL got a lot of bang for its buck in terms of the work we do. So
Great.
I think
Yeah,
I'm hoping others want to, try to come together and keep networking and collaborating.
absolutely. For those of you who are new to this world, USDOL has what they designate a registered apprenticeship week on an annual basis. In the past, it's been in November every year. It's been transferred to April, I believe now. Um, so or March, April. I think it's April. Um, and so they basically designate it on an annual basis at the USDOL level, and New Jersey, we kind of expand on that idea, and we try and do it like the whole month. So you know how it is, everything's bigger here in New Jersey, I guess. We're trying to take over for Texas, but um, we expand it and try to basically have programs that are put together by any of our grantees so that we can, showcase what's going on in these types of programs and services, both at the legislative level to, people and governors, and the governor comes out to a lot of these. Sometimes they bring in visitors from other countries to want to visit and see these types of things. Registered apprenticeship is a pretty big way for us to try and meet the needs of employers and residents of the state alike. So, I think that everybody's looking for ways for it to show success, and I think that those types of events are a good way to do that. So, you may hear from us at points during the grant period. It's not going to be in November like it usually was, but you'll probably start hearing maybe towards the beginning of next year from us, as long as the feds are still going forward with their apprenticeship week, because who knows, seems things change on a daily basis, but we'll see. But as far as what we try to do, we try to really showcase what it is we're doing here in the state, and events like what Dr. Kuiper's talking about there, are very effective ways of doing that. One, it allows for the press to participate, it allows for participants to participate, and their families to participate in some capacities. Um, it really does enhance the ability for you to showcase both to residents, employers, and businesses alike, but to those individuals who make decisions in some capacity when it comes to funding being available. It also is helpful to be able to share that kind of information with them. So, um, yeah, collaborations like these would definitely be great. So we'll definitely collaborate and take the lead on that first meeting for you guys, and then I'll talk with the team and see whether or not they feel like that's they're of benefit to you guys to be a participant in it. And if they are, then we'll continue it that way. If they feel like they're kind of just in the way, or it inhibits your abilities to kind of speak about what you guys need to speak about, then I'll find out from them and we'll hand it off to somebody as a lead, I guess, for the process. Sounds like we already have a hand up there from 1199J, so that's great. But yeah, we'll definitely start that off in July if that works for everybody. Is July a good time frame? All right, perfect. Thanks, Mark. Um, otherwise, did we have any other questions? I don't.
Not in the chat.
Well, thank you all again. You know what? Let me put in the chat the apprenticeship unit email address. Most of you have it already because you've emailed it a million times. This email address, it comes to the whole team. So if you ever have any questions or any needs, always feel free to email that apprenticeshipunit@dol.nj.gov email address. This way, somebody can get back to you, even if somebody's on vacation. You're not waiting on somebody to respond. We tend to put up away messages and give you an email address to go to if we're not in the office, but emergencies happen and you never want to limit yourself. So email apprenticeshipunit@dol.nj.gov and we will, somebody on the team will get it and respond timely so that it doesn't hold you up on trying to get to your next step. Once you start these reports, like Tammy said, they'll all become available to you on April 1st. You know what, Tammy, you want to share that screen where the I think it was like your third screen where the my tasks were, because there was something that I wanted to kind of touch on, but you moved off the page before I unmuted myself. I was too slow on the button. Right here. Yeah. So Tammy was saying that while our contracts are awaiting signature by the commissioner, that your contract's not going to show up in my tasks. So when you go in to start your monthly report, you're going to have to search for it. She showed you a process of searching for it. It's not difficult to search for your application, but you'll also notice that she has circled in the top right-hand corner there. It says initiate related documents. You can find your monthly reports by just clicking that initiate related documents. It will pull up all other grants that you may have for any of you that have grants with us and other parts of the department, you'll have to find the parent document when you click on it. Can you get to the next page, Tammy? Um, so nope, next that one. I'm sorry, they were on. Okay, great, perfect. So this will, when you click that initiate related documents, this box pops up. See where it says parent document? When you go into the application, it automatically populates that, so it makes life easy. But if you have multiple applications in our database, you'll have to choose that drop down next to parent document, find the one that you're trying to initiate an activity report for, and then the monthly reports will show up in the available documents. It is a little bit more, you have to have a little bit more comfort, and that's why I think Tammy didn't share it. But I just wanted to make sure I spoke about it and said, hey, it's there. The database has a lot of things that we can do with it, and we try to use it as much as we can. But at the end of the day, the process that Tammy has there is probably the best for you to not have issues. But if you get comfortable and you're tech savvy and you know what you're doing, feel free to use that initiate related documents right there on your my tasks page, um, within your dashboard, when you log in, and you can do it that way as well. Hopefully we'll get these contracts signed here in a timely manner. I'm hoping they'll be signed so that at the very least, by the time you do your April reporting in May, that they'll be done. Um, Sometimes they get done in like a week or two. Sometimes it takes 3 to 4 weeks. It really depends on administration and how many things are going through the process for commissioner signature. But we'll definitely try and get them signed as soon as we can. Other than that, I want to thank everybody for participating.
There's a comment.
Yeah, I see. You're assuming that the create button will show up once the contract is signed. No, so you can create these reports as of April 1st. So it's all based on when we set the reports as having a start date. So your first ability to create a report will be April 1st, and that'll be a report that'll include anything from February 15th through March 30th that you've provided to your participants or any work that you've done on your grant between that period. Um, so that's why we're saying it might not be showing up in your My Tasks, your contract yet, because the contract actually hasn't been signed by our commissioner. All the contracts have been signed by you guys at this point. Now it just needs our commissioner signature. The notice of award, that letter you received from us when you were awarded these grants, that is what allows for us to get started with the program. That's like a pre-contract, let's call it. At that, it allocates the funds to you as an organization, and it ensures that those funds are available to you right away from day one. Contracts sometimes take time, whether it's budget reviews and revisions or updates or awaiting, commissioners to sign off on things. So we don't want to hold things up. We want to get services started right away. So that's why we do those notice of awards. But yes, you'll be able to actually create these reports starting on April 1st. Um, okay, so like I was saying with that, I want to thank you all. I want to congratulate you all once again, and I want to welcome you all to the um, New Jersey Apprenticeship Network. I know it's something you've heard us talk about a lot in our technical assistance workshops. As grantees of this PACE pre-apprenticeship program, you are now a part of that. Being a part of that is like what you heard Dr. Kuiper talking about and us talking about a little bit. It allows for you all to work together to know what's going on across the state. We'll share things with you when we have them. Uh, we definitely share any opportunities for webinars and trainings that come up. And we also notify you when other state agencies are really kind of looking for information, and you can share some of some of those details with them, or if they have information that should be shared with you guys. So um, welcome to that team, and we look forward to working more closely with all of you as we move into this grant period. um, if at any time you guys run into any issues with the reports, any questions that you have, always feel free to reach out to us. We will definitely either schedule a meeting with you if it's necessary or respond as timely as we can. With that, though, thank you again, and I hope everybody has a good beginning of their week. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.